Well, it's funny because, in your opening comments, like, right, I grew up with MySpace. And if you guys recall, I mean, that was the time that we were coding and who even knew about it. Like, we could have, so many people that were started out with MySpace could have honestly have had coding in
I
like
did not
coding
know
and
you were a
engineering.
MySpace kid. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
thought you were. Welcome to Cocktails and Socktails, the podcast where we make cyber relevant to everyone and unlock the stories of our leading industry professionals. I'm Megan.
I'm Carly, and on today's show, we're talking about Social Security with Stefanie Ziebell, who's been with Microsoft for almost 7 years and is currently a modern works solution specialist. She has worked with a myriad of customers from mom and pop shops to big companies and has many conversations about identity theft. She's also a millennial who has grown up with the evolution of social media, so has combated these issues herself. Hey, Steph, welcome. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a adult beverage. Usually my choice is a whiskey ginger, but today I'm going with a Malibu Coke.
Ooh, nice. Megan, what are you drinking?
I have some white wine that was on sale at the grocery store. I don't know what kind it is.
Love it.
It was under
Love it.
$10.
Hey, I love a
It's
good
not
cheap
bad.
wine.
And how about you, Carly? What are you drinking?
I was feeling some tequila because it's like spring getting into summer, although it's really cold here today. So, but tequila with kind of like a margarita, but with some strawberries. I don't know. Tasty.
Sweet. And in particular, I want to draw attention to your cup that you're drinking out of,
Oh,
which is a
yeah.
Travis Manion Foundation cup.
Yes, you can't
Um,
see, but it says their logo, if not me, then who, on it. One of my favorite rocks glasses.
Very important. All right, Steph, how are you today?
I'm good. It's Friday, so I can't complain too
Yes.
much. The weather here over here in Dallas is not the best, but it's nice and cool before it gets really hot and dry here. So I'll take it. How about you guys?
Love it.
I'm
Good.
great. It's Friday. I have to go get my kids in a little bit, so I'm enjoying this little bit of adult conversation before the weekend starts. For most people, the weekends are quite recuperative, I assume. For me, weekends are chaos, and I have to come back to work on Monday to resume my thoughts.
Love it.
um, all right. So, Steph, give us your high level background. Like, how did you start? How did you land at Microsoft? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I have a very unique journey here at Microsoft and a story. So I'll try to wrap it up in a very quick synopsis. But so I started back in 2016, and I was, this might date me a little bit, but I was actually in Duluth, Minnesota, attending my senior year of college at at a University of Minnesota Duluth, and my professor at the time had told me that Microsoft was visiting and that I needed to speak with them. And I was very hesitant because at the time I thought I was going to stay in Duluth and continue my life. I was working as a marketing and operations coordinator for a property management company. Microsoft ended up speaking at our class and said that they had opened up a new sales center in Fargo, North Dakota. And so I said, okay, this doesn't sound too bad. And for those who don't know, North Dakota is next door neighbors to Minnesota. And I had never been there. And so I just took a leap of faith. I
Wow.
ended up moving there. I lived there for 4.5 years. And in my time there at that campus, I started out as a sales development specialist for Modern Workplace. And that's where I got to understand and educate myself on our solutions for, M360, or at the time it was O365. And then I moved up to be a digital sales rep where I wanted to get more technical and get more strategic with our solutions. And then I ended up finding myself as an Azure cloud solution architect. But for those who also don't know, Azure and Modern Workplace do tend to dabble. They overlap because of the security and compliance portion of it. And I found a great deal of interest in that. Ended up doing that for about a year and a half, got tapped on the shoulder to go back to Modern Workplace as a sales manager, where I got to teach people my passion behind the products. Was that for a year, and then got tapped on the shoulder to go to Azure to be a sales manager and taught them, the differences and how the solutions work together. And then somehow found myself having a conversation about my passion behind, you know, what we do as a company that allows for every single industry, every single type of business, every single type of consumer to protect their environment on the inside and out. And I had a conversation with somebody who was in the federal space, and it ended up having me taking a look at an opening. And I spoke with my current manager, Jim Step, and we hit it off. And I am now a modern workplace back in Modern Workplace as an SSP, and it has been a fantastic ride. So that is how I am here right now. It's been insane.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So do me a favor and break down like what is an SSP? Like what is
Yes.
that role and how does it compare to are you technical? Do you consider yourself like more or less technical than like the average like woman in tech? Like walk through that for me.
Yeah. So the best way that I can explain to people what an SSP is when you think of a spectrum. So on one side, you have an AE, and that's somebody who gets to oversee all of the different products. They get to see it from start to finish. They get to really orchestrate and facilitate sales conversations. And then on the other end, you have a technical specialist or a cloud solution architect who is somebody that is brought in. Yes, they can run deals if they want to, but they are the ones that are more so of a resource, and they are diving into your environment. And then an SSP is somebody who can actually kind of glide between the two. So you can be as technical as you want to, you can be as salesy as you want to, you can orchestrate and facilitate conversations, or you can be brought in just to check the box. I sometimes kind of break it down as an AE will always ask the question of, what do you want to do, right, within your environment? A CSA or a TS is somebody who's going to be like, okay, I'm going to show you how to do it. And SSP is the one that's going to say, this is why you need to do it, if that makes sense.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you for breaking that down. So you are a proud woman in tech. And I think I already know the answer to the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Team Azure or Team M365?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, this is an interesting
Okay, the
question.
fact that you're like hemming and hawing, I wasn't even expecting that. I thought you were going to be like diehard One Direction. So,
Well, I mean,
So
she has dabbled in both, so
yeah.
I've dabbled in both. I see the benefit in both. I think from a business perspective, and this is something that people tend to kind of overlook, is Modern Workplace. You can honestly sell it to anybody in the world, every single person in the world. And as long as we continue to produce humans, you're adding value and revenue to the business. From an Azure perspective, you could be the smallest company in the world, employee wise, but you could be generating as much revenue because it's consumption. So from a business perspective, Azure is always going to, I treat it as, think about the ocean. We've only developed and discovered about 10%. And
Mm.
that is what the virtualized environment is within Azure. And so there's that. But then when I kind of think back about the solutions themselves, I love Modern Workplace because it's the value. It's, you are piecing together all these different products and solutions to create your own customized service. Whereas with Azure, it is so mechanical and so complex that it's really just you're flipping on and off buttons. That's really what it is. And whereas with Modern Workplace, you get to use the solutions every single day. Like, those solutions are really only working when you are using them, Whereas with Azure, it could be running and you could walk away from your desk and it's fine, right? So it's kind of how you look at it. But I think they both are equally amazing products. But yes, my heart is definitely with Modern Workplace.
Such a sales answer.
I was just gonna say.
Such a sales answer. Okay, so the last question I want to know personally before we kick off the questions that are pertinent to today's issue or today's episode in particular, what is your cyber why? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What are you most passionate about? And what's the most important thing that you want people to take away after listening to you?
So what I would say is, so cyber is multifaceted. There's so many things that connect to it, but since we're kind of honing in on, social security predominantly in this, this episode, what I would say is, humanity is hugely reliant on information systems, and being connected to the digital world. Like it is something that we will never escape. And so, especially since 2020, I think that we have opened up a different world of how we work. So, working from home, like you are putting yourself at greater risk. Um, and what's important to me is that we need to protect ourselves, because even if we just think that we are just one person, I'm sitting in my house, I am keeping to myself, but if I do something that isn't in protection of the people that are connected to me, or it's, I'm not doing my due diligence to protect myself, that is a ripple effect. And so it's, we have a lot a lot more importance in the world than we tend to think about,
Hmm.
and a lot of it is about our digital footprint. And so by protecting that, you are doing your due diligence for the technical world. And I mean, also too, like it could go greater, as in when you think about our country, right? Like we all work in the government, and well, a facet of the government, but people within this industry and within this space of the business, they say something, they send something, they share something, that is putting your country at a great deal of risk. So that is, my why is protection of yourself is protection of your people.
No,
That's
I love that.
awesome.
Now, I do have a question. So with that, and like where you are in a sense, like age-wise in the digital timeline, where, you know, this thought process of, cyber and security and protecting yourself, protecting others, you know, can you can you even recall potentially if you even had a thought of what that was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even before getting into the space where you start to learn so much more than probably most people know?
Well, it's funny because, in your opening comments, like, right, I grew up with MySpace. And if you guys recall, I mean, that was the time that we were coding, and who even knew about it? Like, we could have, so many people that were started out with MySpace could have honestly have had coding in
I
like
did not
coding
know
and
you were a
engineering.
MySpace kid. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought you
Wow.
were
Okay.
like, I thought MySpace
First
was
on
happened
Facebook.
before. Like, I was a MySpace, like, probably early 20 something. Were you MySpace in like junior high, high school, or college?
Um, Junior high.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm
Yeah,
a
I
little
was
bit
Oh
before
more.
my.
Facebook.
Oh wow. So you're even
Okay.
way more.
Oh,
I
I
got
go
on
back
my.
to AIM. I go back to Instant Messenger.
I was gonna say I was on MySpace because Facebook was only for college students, and I had buddies that had like gone into the military, and so got a MySpace to connect with those people who didn't go to college. Like that's the only reason why I had
Oh, I
We're
MySpace.
loved
not dating
MySpace.
ourselves at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Check the bags
um
under my eyes. No.
I mean, so to go back to your question, Carly, I mean, no, I didn't even think that it was pertinent because we didn't know
Yeah.
the possibility that the internet had. I mean, when you think about it, we had dial up. And the only way that you could get on the internet is if nobody was using the phone. And so,
Right.
right, today you could be on the internet from your device, like your computer, your smart TVs, your mobile devices, your cameras. I mean, it's insane of the stretch now that you can have being connected to the internet. So back then it wasn't even a thought. And people didn't even know how to really navigate it. So there wasn't too much risk.
Yeah. All right. So you start out on AIM. You're a big MySpace user. What platforms do you use today from a
So
social perspective?
yeah, so I have, right? So I have subscriptions. I have logins to Facebook, I have Snapchat, I have LinkedIn, and I have Instagram. But the ones that I use regularly would be Instagram, Snapchat, and then LinkedIn, obviously. And it's funny. I don't know if you were going to ask this, but Instagram is, you know, one where you can kill time. That's where people are
Yeah.
mostly going to go to connect with others. And then Snapchat, I just love it because of the streaks. I have a couple streaks going on. So
Oh,
for those
yeah.
listening that don't know what streaks are, it's where you just send a snap each single day and then you get a little number tied to it. I think my highest streak right now is about 200. So that means 200 days of just sending a snap. Um, back and
Yeah.
forth. And then Facebook, I don't use it. I think I change my profile page like every 4 years. It's like a joke at this point. um, but I use it because that's where a lot of the mature audience is, and so keeping up with family members.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Snapchat for streaks is the primary reason, but it's like streaks with my friends' kids, right? Because they're like, "Oh, you're on Snap," and I just accidentally broke. We finally got. I think we got to like 400, but I was also gonna be like, Lorelai, I'm not gonna be thinking about this as intensely as wanting to get to that year.
Yeah, it's
Um,
painful. It's like, but
I was like, dang, but. It's usually just like good morning, and it's like, she's in high school, so it's just like, she takes a picture of her brother passed out in the passenger seat driving to school in the morning, or like pictures of our pets. Um, but all right, so you use Instagram or Instagram and Snapchat mostly. What do you see any pros and cons to being as connected? We've mentioned our phones, internet, or as it like Alexas or devices, TVs, cameras, pros and cons of being connected or as connected as we are.
yeah, I do hate to say this. I think there are a lot more pros than cons because um, it's I'll explain why, but the cons are, though they're a smaller amount compared to the pros, they weigh heavily. So the biggest one is connectivity, right? So being able to connect with anybody anywhere. I mean, think about all those times that you went on a trip and then you met some people that you vibed with, and then you don't want to give them your personal information, right? Your phone number. So I'm just going to give you something social so that we can stay in contact. Or again, referring back to your mature audience of your family members. I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
grandparents, a lot of aunts and uncles, cousins that you can see them from a distance, right? And I would say education. So especially with TikTok, and I know that there's a lot of political stuff going on it, but it's more so of the fast stream of being able to retrieve information. And it goes, now they have the Instagram Reels, so it's borderline kind of um,
Same.
recreating the TikTok, right? But you can learn a lot on there. Like there's constant professionals who can get to their audience and share things that you may have not known before. Help, right? Getting involved with the community, spreading that awareness to many different causes. Information and updates. Like not every single person is going to go watch the news on their TV, so they can retrieve it as quick as possible. And sometimes too, I mean, I think with that portion in particular, like a lot of the mainstream media, it can be very biased. And so with people who are actually involved in some of this, stuff that's happening within the world, they have a platform to be able to voice their own, views and perspectives of things. And then think about, businesses. It is insane how many businesses have been developed since social media has happened, and it allows for you to promote your business not having to pay for that advertising. It allows for you to see what other people are doing, so and what's working. I mean, you can engage with your consumers. And so yeah, there's a lot of pros, there really is. From a cons perspective, which why we're here is because one, it's addicting. I mean,
Yeah.
time time flies by when you are scrolling, and it's a huge distraction, and it's not the best habit to have, and it's hard to break. Especially, when you think about how distracting it is when we talk about our younger generations and the generations to come. This is something that they are being born with. And so that promotes cyberbullying. It's insane. You could literally do something at school and then leave and then come back. No one will know about it. But you can't do anything these days without it being caught and being shared. And that's a scary thing. And a lot of people are really quick to, again, utilize a platform such as social media to, defame individuals, to cancel per se, or glamorize unrealistic and unhealthy behavior. That's another one
Yeah.
that's really, really bad. And then lastly, the biggest one is hacking. It is so easy, and there's a lot of statistics on it. And me and Carly were talking prior to the recording starting that every 30 seconds somebody is trying to hack. A hacking is occurring, and that's across so many different things. That's not even just social. That's businesses. That's just, I mean, it is insane of how that happens. And then ransomware victims occur every 10 seconds. So that's just somebody going on their computer. I mean, you can hear about, which we'll get into it, but it's just insane of how quick and how rapid the social media platforms can either benefit you or harm you.
And what's like the likelihood of someone like through social media or like a ransomware, like a phishing email, like what's the likelihood of them getting caught?
Oh, slim to none. Slim
Slim to
to
none.
none. Yeah,
Slim to none.
and that's the thing that's scary about social media is that you are hiding behind a screen. Nobody knows. Nobody knows really who you are. Like obviously there's been cases where, people have been caught, but it's because they're leaving a digital footprint and that can be traced.
Hey, Steph, have you followed any of the congressional investigation of TikTok at all with regard to like data being
Where it's being
shared? And yeah, like what are your thoughts on that? Like how involved should the government be with regard to the apps that we're using, the data that we're collecting? Like where does the risk level, like from an individual level, end, and like where should the government pick up the slack for like maybe what the end user doesn't even consider that they're signing up for with an app like TikTok?
Yeah, so that one it's so hard, right? Because a lot of people can see it as if the government were to step in, you are imposing on somebody's freedom of speech and imposing on their freedom. And I think that it is a it is something where when your country is being infiltrated, there should be some sort of filter put in place because that is in fact like data data is used for good and for bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
and it can be interpreted in a way and you can learn a lot about someone, something when you are retrieving that data. Like it is um, chaotic of what can occur once you have that type of data. And so when you think about countries out there that may not have the same mind as us or goals as us or desires as us, they could potentially be utilizing our data to use against us. And so I do think that there should be
Mm.
some filters and there should be some sort of mediation occurred. And I understand again that, some people may take that phrase and be like, no, that's imposing. Like, this is my freedom. But it's like, okay, well, then go create your own platform. And, I think the government would be more inclined and more flexible if it was a platform that was created in house and was housed basically off of our country, Um, but I mean, that's way above my kind of like thought process and how they would, you know, continue to consistently manage that, right? Because how quick people are with things. But
Yeah.
I would say that, there's so many scenarios that have occurred in the last, few years that people manipulate data and um, it has turned out very bad.
It's very interesting. I think about this a lot about like, I think you guys were talking before the podcast started about, I hate to even bring up the name, but John Bonet and how
Oh
like
yeah.
now there's with technology advancing since that whole case happened, that now we're able to pick up and leverage DNA from a forensic evidence perspective where like when that crime occurred,
Yeah.
that forensic ability was not available. And so, like, fast forward, what has it been, 20 years? Again, we're dating ourselves, but that we're able to pick up that evidence and evaluate it with like new forensic technologies.
hmm
So I think a lot about like TikTok, like how damaging is it really? TikTok is not necessarily like from a privacy perspective, we're not really breaking new ground in terms of like what they have the ability to collect on US citizens, even though it's like basically, a Chinese app, we're really not breaking new ground in terms of what data we're collecting. Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like these apps have been collecting our data for forever. But like what
Any
China
website you go
has
to,
for real, like everything cached in your
the
browser, like your
cookies, all the
Oh yeah.
cookies
ISPs
pop
pick
ups
all of
and
this up. So my thought process here is like, have you ever ordered, like on Amazon, you can order the
Oh,
knockoff robot vacuums, right? Not what's the main brand for robot
oh, like the
vacuums?
I
And
think the iRobot.
no, I think we Eufy. Are we thinking about Eufy?
No,
Because I got a
no, there's
Eufy.
there
there's
there's
like one
Effie,
main, like
but
big brand that's like the robot vacuum. It's like a domestic brand. And then
I
there's
think
like,
Effie's like second to it.
okay,
Yeah.
but hear me out. There's like knockoff brands that are like made in
Yeah.
China because China doesn't have the same like copyright regulations
hmm
and patent regulations like that. Legal does not come into capacity with
Roomba.
them. Roomba,
Roomba.
that's what I was thinking of. So
That's what
tell
it
me
is.
this. You have China who is manufacturing, like, let's say, like third party, like robot vacuums, just as an example, that is mapping the floor plan of your house. And you think, like, oh, well, in context, what could they possibly be doing with the floor plan of my house? Who really cares? And then take from the other side of context, like also China is maybe collecting like data from TikTok. And right now I'm searching coastal grandma, I'm searching
Oh yeah.
salad recipes, like things that don't matter, right? But
Mhm.
where I'm going with this is I think it is so interesting when you start to think about correlating the data points that today we can't necessarily correlate. And I bring this up because, like, one of the tools that Carly and I sell is the insider risk management piece within Microsoft Purview, and the ability to correlate data points for risk that a human might not necessarily be able to correlate
Right.
through the use of artificial intelligence. And when we
Yeah.
fast forward and we take a look at the case of like a John Bonet situation where there's evidence that's clear, but we won't be able to process that from a forensic perspective for 20 years because the technology just simply won't be there for another generation. So we take your robot vacuum floor plan of your house and your TikTok
Tic Tac.
data preferences and maybe even like the geocodes from the videos that you post, and
Oh
fast
yeah.
forward 20 years with the advance of artificial intelligence and machine learning, like what forensic capabilities will we have a generation from now that will allow us to correlate those data points? And that's really what scares me from the perspective of TikTok and Meta and all this, is that we can't even wrap our heads around what they're going to be able to do. And when I say they, obviously, I mean, when we refer to China,
Yeah.
like generally speaking, I think we all refer to it in an adversarial sense, but what are they going to be able to do with this data in 20 years? We don't know, but they are masters at collecting it. It's kind of crazy. And we don't know yet because we haven't encountered that scenario yet. So I just think that is so interesting. Stephanie, are you a TikTok user?
I'm not. No.
No. What
So
stops
No.
you?
I had originally downloaded it when, the global pandemic happened because that's what everybody was doing. I had it for maybe a total of like 2 weeks, and then I was like, I'm over this. I think for me, um it again was just another sort of platform that just distracted me from what I wanted to
Yeah.
be doing and goals that I had for myself. And then two, it's at to the point now where it's like TikTok, what's on TikTok is now on Instagram Reels. So it's like I don't need two platforms.
Almost instantaneously too. Like
Yeah.
there were some memes going around that's like, oh, my friend sent me this
Yeah.
Instagram reel that I saw on TikTok a month ago. A friend of mine likes to send that to me all the time. And I'm like, and I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm
Yep.
gonna
It's
keep
fine.
sending them.
Yeah. So I'll have like friends sending me them, via text message, and that's fine. And then I'll watch them. But I just, for some reason, I wasn't on the bandwagon. I wasn't about it. I didn't think that, I mean, I'm not trying to get payment out of it. I mean, I don't want to be
Yeah.
dancing on it. Um, and so it wasn't something that I found to be quite, um, satisfactory for me.
Okay, I want
Yeah.
to know, do you have a story? Have you personally been trolled or scammed? Like, give me your like dirtiest, most juicy social media. I
Oof.
can't believe this happened to me story.
Oh my goodness, can't believe this happened. So I've had a couple, um, but I'll save my big one for last. So there was one on Instagram. I had a family friend that would reach out to me, um, like kind of randomly. It'd be like, "Hey, hi, what's up?" And I'm like, okay. So finally one day I like wrote back, and his name was John, or his name is John. He's not gone by any means, but his name's John. And I hadn't talked to him in probably almost 10 years. It was somebody that I grew up with, like in the same neighborhood. Again, family friend. Our moms are friends. And I was like, "What's up?" And they're like, "Hey, just wanted to catch up." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then it goes, "Oh, by the way, I need help with getting into my Facebook. Can I send you a link?" And I'm like, I don't respond because I'm like, listen, don't mess with me. I'm in security, or I'm in technology, right? And sends it again. It was like, "Hey, I really need help. I'm locked out of my Facebook, and all you got to do is I'm going to send you a link, and then you tell me what the code is." And I didn't say anything. 3 months go by. Hey, I was like, "What's up?" Same thing. I need a code. And
That is
send a
so
screenshot
weird.
of the past conversation. And I send it, and I'm like, "You've already asked this." And he's like, "No,
Crazy.
this was the kicker. Whoever was impersonating him,
Yeah.
they need to read a couple books on, impersonation. But they sent me like, "No, I'm locked on my Instagram and I need a code." You're on
Like you
Instagram. What do
just
you mean
said
you're locked?
yeah.
What do you mean? And so then I just said, "Hey," I was like, "I don't have time for this. You're blocked." Like that was it. Whatever. So that happened. Have I reached out to the real person and said, "Hey, was that you?" No, because I personally am like, if it
Don't
truly is,
care.
you can
Yeah.
find me out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that happened. Another time was, on Snapchat. If you notice when you get like friend request and the name is the same as the actual like account, and they're like
Handle, yeah.
weird names. They're weird names. Just delete them.
Oh.
Don't even think about it. Just get rid of them. The biggest one that has happened to me 3 times, and this is why I'm now private on Instagram. Um, I had people sending me screenshots saying, "Is this you?" And I was like, "What?" And I look at the Instagram page, and somebody impersonated me by taking my photo, taking multiple photos off my account,
Yep.
change. So my Instagram, I'm not going to say it here for those who hear, but my Instagram handle is say XYZ. This person did XYZZ. So it's very similar
Mm.
to mine. And on the account, they were promoting adult activity, if you get what I'm saying. Yes,
Whoa.
with my
Sorry to
photos.
be laughing, but
And what they do is they take your information, then they start
yeah.
following people that you know.
Yes.
And then they'll say, like on the story, it said, "Hey, for however many dollars, you can get this content, this private content," and using my photos. And so I had to like reach out to people and post it on my actual story and say, it's like, "Please report this account."
Yeah.
That happened to me 3 times, and I was like, "I'm done." And it's happened to many friends of mine as well. And it's embarrassing. I think that's the biggest part. It's like I do have this profession, and I do have people that I was either a manager for, or people that are family, and to have these impersonators take your information, it's violating. It is beyond
Yeah.
violating, and it's so gross, but they will do whatever they need to. So that is
And
my biggest one.
and you can't stop it because you
No.
can't stop a screenshot,
Nope.
even with the
Well,
watermark.
with the
I mean,
DLP, you can.
Yes, I was gonna say it depends.
to a certain
So
Depends where
extent.
you are.
yeah,
That
So
is crazy.
I
Oh
know
my
it's bad.
gosh. I would be
I was gonna say, Megan,
so.
have you had anything happen to you, or
I,
what things have you noticed?
you guys, I have had, I'm gonna keep this like really brief, but I, I don't know. I don't think I was being catfished. I think this was a real human, but I had a full blown like online relationship with someone I never met for multiple years of my life. Moved across country to try and like connect with that person. And I look back and I'm like, what the like I was so naive and I was being I was sort of being preyed upon a little bit, I think in a like a weird way. But the thing is I don't think it was a catfish, but I to this day I could not tell you definitively if it was or was not because I never met that human in real life.
Yeah.
Like we ended up like stopping communication when I actually like met my current husband and I communicated to this individual like, hey, I'm engaged to this person, whatever. And they were like, oh well, we can't be in communication anymore. Like, fair enough. Like, what
You're
communication
like,
are
Okay.
we? I
Cool.
didn't exactly like know you in the biblical
Yeah.
sense. It was all online. And what's crazy to me looking back is that I saw actual photos of this person. I saw just their profile picture. I think was the only photo I ever saw. I was so gullible. You guys, there's a lesson here that like I was so naive. I was so young. I just took everything at face value and people prey on situations. Like I was all over my Facebook at the time saying like I just got out of this relationship and I was shit
oh,
talking my ex. I was just like like if you were
Yeah.
looking for someone to be like predatory with, I was like a beacon, like I was a blinking light, like come prey on me. I'm like a
I'm
sorry
available.
excuse for
I'm
human.
available to try
It's
try your shtick out on. Yeah.
it's so bad. And the thing is and actually at that time, this individual lived in Texas. And I was like, there was just always some like, I was like, hey, I'll fly there. No, no, no. And there was always some reason that it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
So either this person was
oof.
like dating someone or in a relationship or maybe even married, like I don't know. But there was definitely more to the story than was being presented for me. And just I look back and I'm just like, I'm actually a little bit surprised that I'm sharing this here because it's like I was so naive. I'm so embarrassed that that happened to me, but like
But you're
the
not the
internet is
only
a
one.
wild no,
Yeah,
I mean
they have
And
a whole
uh,
TV series, multiple
well,
seasons on it.
well,
yeah,
and a lot of these people, it's they just toss it out there to
Yeah.
100 people to see who bites. Like I had something similar happen to me. Like some guy slid into my DMs on Instagram, and like the thing though is that, and I was working in IT at the time too, so I was a little like skeptical, but I still went along with it for a little bit. But then I was like, and I mean, he showed a picture of, and this is to kind of to your point where your account got catfished, essentially got spoofed. This guy stupidly put a picture, the person that he was impersonating had a picture of himself with his military ID
oh,
on the internet. So he sends it to me, and I'm like doing all this research. I'm like, I
like
don't know,
first
like
of all,
maybe.
if you were really who you say you are, you would know that you don't do that.
And like, and then it just so happened, like, there was like, and I was like, I'll play along with it. I'm fucking bored. I'm kind of curious. Like, are you really who you say you are, or are you not? And he supposedly, like, deployed in Africa somewhere asking me for money. I'm like, go ask your CO. Like, there are so many other
Like I know
avenues
the funding
other than me.
process.
So he's
Right.
like, like send me an Apple gift card or Bitcoin.
Such a
And I'm
bold
like,
move.
I'm sorry.
For
It's called an
impersonating a
it's called an
soldier to
Eagle
another
card.
soldier,
Yeah.
such a bold move. Like the process. Like
The
this person knows the process.
Oh,
Yeah,
it gets
that's
so
wild.
much better. And I was like, like there's some like, and I look at this like there was a girl like I did like the Google search or whatever, found some pictures with this chick in
Bingle.
it.
You mean bingle
Bingle, yeah, I
search?
binged some photos. And I looked this girl up, and this dude who says he's in Africa is supposedly in a lifting competition in Kentucky.
Oh.
And then there's a video that I'm sure it went a little viral where his bicep like ripped doing his deadlifts.
Ooh.
Like, oh, and you watch it. It was gross. But I was
Oh.
like, and he was like, don't listen to her. I'm like, bro, you are breaking your bicep here. You are not you. Goodbye. And he even still tried to reach out like a week or so later, like just to say, hey. I was like, no, go F yourself. But like, so many people get their accounts like spoofed from, you know, cropping and all that. I've had like a famous pastor of a North Carolina church try and like reach out to me. I'm like, I don't even go to your
Steve?
church. No, Elevation Church.
Yeah.
Oh
Steve.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Also,
Is
I
his name
had
Steve? I think it is. I'm gonna look this up.
I
there's
know.
this
Somebody tell me the name. I want to know.
um
Yeah,
and I'm
Steven.
like,
Steven Furtick.
yeah, yes. And I'm like, but the thing is like
He's married and has kids.
his social media is not handled by himself personally. B, the typos in it. Like all the basic things that they tell you to look out for, you can see in these things. So like when
Listen,
you were saying the one letter off, there's this author like very like not necessarily like he's had his second book coming out soon, but like he's a very much like his book's called The Comfort Crisis, and I follow him, and like I've messaged just like once like I listened to your book from the library, I'm gonna buy it. Um and somebody spoofed his account and then started reaching out to me. I'm like, now I know you're not him because we don't have that relationship. So, hey, buddy, somebody's spoofing your account. You might want to let people know because there are 5 people that I know who follow you who are now following him. So, I'm going to report it, but you should tell other people. Like,
yeah,
it's bananas.
it's
But
rapid fire.
have
It's
you had
just
Steve Furtick reach out to you too?
no. I just know him from church. It's a listen, global. Okay, so the global pandemic, you couldn't go to church, and so they were
Yes.
groundbreaking in doing virtual church.
Oh, Elevation Church is on point with
And
all
that
of that
listen,
digital space.
and listen, I am no Christian girl.
This
Okay, I will
answer
tell
is
you that.
probably real, but like it could not have been a better answer. I know him from church.
Like I am no Christian girl,
That's
but what I
the
will tell you
pastor.
is that choir, oof, give
Oh,
me
yeah.
listen, get
They're
that
good.
that
They're
that
real
choir
good.
is mwah,
All right,
literally
guys.
sings lullabies.
All
Anyways,
right.
back to
We'll take-
social.
I unfortunately I'm gonna have to leave pretty quickly and go get my
Yeah.
kids, and by that I mean facilitate somebody else getting my kids. But we need to talk about quickly what are the red flags to look
Oh,
out
yeah.
for.
And
We've
I'll
touched base quickly, and then on top of that, we need to discuss what tools, websites, etc. can you use to reduce your risk online.
yeah, and I can go through that super quick. So, the biggest one, impersonation, right? People are going to pretend to be other people.
Yeah.
They will create fake accounts. They will, share things that you would think that they shouldn't know, but they do, right? They can find it out honestly anywhere on the internet. Getting you to click on links, that's the biggest one. What happens is when you click on a link, what they're essentially doing is having spyware or phishing tactics to literally take over your computer. I mean, we hear about a lot of older victims that fall to this, right? Think about your grandparents or somebody who's not necessarily involved in the technical world and think, oh, somebody from Microsoft called me and they want to help me, when it's like, why would they even be calling you in the first place? I mean, that happens too often. And so
Mhm.
don't ever allow for anybody to remote access into your devices or
Oh
send
my
you a
God.
link. Like
No.
it's insane. And again, this is a little plug for those who don't know. With our solution, you can mitigate that.
100%. Is it
Yeah,
more important to have your virus? This is just for anyone listening who doesn't know. Is it more important to have your antivirus up to date, or is it more important to be cognizant of phishing schemes? Go.
cognizant
Mm.
of phishing schemes.
Thank
And the
you.
reason why I
Yes.
say that, right, is because it does not matter. You can download spamware, malware, whatever on your device, but it's like that's not going to protect your other devices that you're using. Or if
Right.
you're traveling and you sign onto a local network, I mean, it's a mess. So yeah,
100%. Humans are the weakest
being
link.
cognizant.
They are the
Mm-hmm.
weakest link
Yes.
in the chain.
Yep.
All right.
Fake
Give us some.
promotions. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say fake promotions where they're like, you won something. No, you did not. Oh, I have my mom,
Oh yeah.
this
Oh my
lady.
God.
She's like, I want a free Keurig. Where? Well, I got an email on Yahoo. Why? Well, they said if I put my information, I was like, no, you did not. And she did.
It's
I
like funny, but
literally,
it's not funny.
it's, it is
It's
just
so hard
comical.
because
Yeah.
combating it, especially with like parents, family members,
Yeah, and
friends.
then they get like aggressive back. Like,
Yes.
well, why
Yeah.
wouldn't
You're like,
I? Like,
Yes.
it's
And my
like,
mom,
no.
oh no.
verbatim, my mom says, well, I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd be mad. I'm like, when did you
Obviously.
do this? And I'm like, we're
Obviously.
going to the bank right now. You need to cancel it. I do not care. Freeze your
100%.
accounts. Yeah,
Oh my
it's brutal.
God.
So yeah,
All right. All right.
tools.
What
Yeah.
sites and
Yes.
tools, how can we reduce our risk?
Yes. So I will be sharing steps on how to do this. So I will say that deleting your data from, public websites, don't make it inaccessible, right? Like it's just less easy to access your personal and confidential information. So I
Yeah.
just want you to know that. Um, but what I would say is you could go to whitepages.com, you can go to USA People Search, you can go to, 411, Radius,
And we'll
all of
put
these
some of these
sites.
in the show notes
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
below,
Yep.
all of the sites that we're referencing.
Yes. And what you do is you unsubscribe from
Those links you
those
can click
websites.
on.
Yes.
Yes.
So you unsubscribe from them so they remove your personal information. Like it is asinine on how I could literally go by taking your name, I could look up your phone number, I could look at where you lived the last few years, I could look up your birthday information. It is wild. And
Yeah.
it is again very violating.
And they
I
don't
will
make it
also
very easy sometimes
no,
either. You have to
they
really
don't.
search how to get rid of your information from that site.
Yes. And then I would just say, like, things to actually think about and remember is do not overshare information like personal interest, recent purchases, details about your family, details about you, your work. Like, be very, and if you do that, then you need to make sure that you are going to your privacy settings on all your social media accounts and blocking as much as possible. You want to make it so that you are a person that is not easily identifiable, and you want to make it so that you're not easily targeted. And then I would say also too, of the biggest one that people forget is our mobile devices, right? So you can't really see here. That is a huge tracker on you. And one thing that people tend to forget, if you have geotagging on or geolocation for all of your
Crucial.
applications, this is a
They
huge
know.
one. Okay. So here's an example. Let's say I send Megan a photo and I have my geolocation on where I took that photo. Megan could easily save that photo to her phone. When she opens it up, it shows you when I took that photo, what I took that photo with, and where the exact location I took that photo. For example, here's a little thing. My friend was talking to this guy and she had said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm at this wedding." And she's like, "Oh, really? Like, what are you wearing to this wedding?" Being very, just innocent,
Yeah.
and intentional, like, "Oh, hey, like, how's the wedding going?" So he sends her this photo. She saves the photo, and all of a sudden, she notices that the date was not the day that it
Mm-hmm.
was, and it was like 3 months earlier. And so she obviously approaches him with
Didn't
it.
she? I was going to say,
Yeah.
she called him out, right?
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yes, and he says, "Well," he goes,
You're a
"Well,
little
that's the
too
outfit I wore." Yeah.
intelligent for me.
Yeah. And he goes, "Well, that's the
Same
outfit."
outfit.
Like
I
it's
just
the
didn't
same
take any
outfit, but yeah,
pictures.
different wedding. And so it's just it is wild on how people, are willing to go these lengths, but just be very, very particular and again, I use the word intentional about with what you are sharing. Like you may think that you're not sharing anything, but your digital footprint is.
Out
And
there.
it goes back to, what Megan brought up about, what people can do with this information. And so though I love the cloud and I think the cloud is one of the most secure places, Microsoft specifically, and a little plug there, but I would just say take precautionary action and give it one day. Like literally give yourself a social media detox day where you go through and you just protect yourself. And there are things that I will be sharing to help out with that. So I'll get off my soapbox, but yes, it was
I love
fantastic
it.
chatting with you today.
I have really quickly, I have some rapid fire questions. You're going to give me
Yeah.
like a quick, brief, succinct, like
Okay.
1 to 2 word answer. All right. Give me
Let's do
one
it.
good reason. Give me one good reason that your social media or your social should be public.
Should be public.
Mhm.
If it's not tied to your personal life.
Okay. So
If
if
it's
it's
an
like a
alias.
business.
It's a business.
Okay.
Okay.
Business,
That's a great
it's an
answer.
alias.
Okay.
Not your primary
Yep.
account. Got it.
All right. Should your
Yep.
kids' photos be on social media?
Mm.
Are they of age?
What
My
is
kids
of
are.
age?
My kids are 1, 3, and 5.
What is of age
um,
though?
yeah. So, this is a good one. Because so I am not a parent. So please, whoever's listening to this, take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, whatever you choose, that is how you live your life and how you would prefer to protect your children. I would say for me is yes, there can be photos out there, but if you are taking precautionary measures to where you are protecting your information and you trust the people that you're sharing it with, then yes, I would say you can.
All right. I have a Facebook page that I basically don't use. I actually just keep it active so I can leverage the single sign-on authentication. So unused social media, should it be deleted?
Unused social media? Yeah. Just get, I mean, well, actually no, because I also have Facebook that I don't use. But I use it more so of an informational space. But for me, mine is
So you
locked
do
down. So
use
like,
it
only yeah.
But so if you
Like let's
don't
say
use it,
for
you should,
open
because if
source
you're
with
not
Facebook, I
upkeeping
use it
it,
for So I use it for Facebook Marketplace because I like to sell stuff.
All right,
yeah,
word. I could see
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yep. But you will not be able to find me if you didn't know who I was.
I think if you're not upkeeping it, it's
Yeah.
not about deleting the app. It's about deleting your account. It's about removing the account,
Your
whether,
personally identifiable
Yeah.
information.
yeah,
Like
whether
I
it's
had a Twitter. You guys,
people,
I had a
yeah,
Twitter. And when I first started Microsoft, they want us to do this thing where like social, social selling, right? And as soon as I heard they wanted me to have Twitter, I deleted mine. I was like, no, because younger Steph was saying some very outlandish things
yeah.
and
Yeah.
thoughts. And
And
so I
it's
was like, get rid
forever.
of it. It's forever. So I got rid of
forever.
it. Yeah, I got rid of
Okay.
mine.
Should you check in at locations on social media in real time?
No, nope. No, you should not.
Awesome.
Mm-mm. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Cocktails and Sacktails, the podcast where we make cyber relevant to everyone and unlock the stories of our leading industry professionals. Thank you again to Stefanie for joining us. Stefanie, we've talked about social media today. Where can people find you on social media? Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. What's
Yes.
your public preference for people who might want to follow you professionally and see what you're up to from a security perspective?
So I will say there is nothing public, but you can send me a request, and primarily LinkedIn is where I will allow for most people to do so because it's just for a professional page. The other ones, more personable, I am very spectacle on who I allow in, but you can find me on LinkedIn, Stefanie Ziebell. And if you are interested in my personal pages, you can message me on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, you can find everything down below in the show notes, including where to find our guest. And as always, you can find us here on YouTube every single Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and like the video and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat. Have a good night.
Time for a
Bye.
refill. Just
Yes.
kidding. Time to get my kids. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.